City Council approved an action plan designed to tackle affordable housing.
The plan included a suggestion to provide a free attorney for anyone facing eviction.
Big question, is that possible? Our Bella Caracta has more.
I hope that someone helps me because I need it. I really do.
Crystal Phipps has never been evicted before, but with $1,400 in past due rent, court was inevitable.
I know I can't afford no attorney. I really can't. I cannot.
Phipps's legal aid attorney was there to help negotiate. Through a payment plan, she and her 8-year-old granddaughter will get to stay in their home, and the landlord gets paid.
A lot of times we're trying to get this the best possible outcome for both parties, and a lot of that can be achieved by mediating or negotiating a mutually beneficial resolution.
The Legal Aid of Nebraska and the Nebraska Bar Association's Tenant Assistance Project provides free legal counsel in Douglas County. Volunteer attorneys work on behalf of tenants facing eviction. But with roughly 100 eviction hearings a week, they need help themselves.
We need more attorneys. We need more program capacity to continue this on into the future.
A part of the newly approved Housing Affordability Action Plan advocates to expand TAP and make a tenant's right to counsel a local law. That plan was passed Tuesday night on a 5-2 vote. One of those in opposition, Councilwoman Amy Melton.
The city doesn't have the jurisdiction to do that. So we actually have something in our plan that we don't have the power or the authority to do.
Although other cities across America have. Omaha's housing manager, Greg Paskach, pointed to New York City, San Francisco, and Boulder, with city law establishing a right to counsel. He said the action plan is just a guide to bolster eviction prevention services in Omaha.
It's a good thing, you know, that people like that are helping us, people that can afford stuff like that.
On your side, in Omaha, Bella Caracta, 6 News.
The Housing Affordability Action Plan, the timeline is accomplishing their goals related to eviction prevention. It's listed at 5 years.